Monday Health Minutes, sponsored by Valley Health.
Hi, I'm Melanie Schaefer. Welcome to Valley Health Monday Health Minutes. About 2 million people in the United States suffer from celiac disease. A lot of them are undiagnosed. So what exactly is celiac disease and what help is there out there? We're talking with Valley Health gastroenterologist Mark Subik about that today. We're so glad you're with us. Tell me some of the common signs and symptoms that say, yeah, this is celiac disease.
Well, there's a gradation of symptoms that celiac disease can present with, depending on the severity of the problem. If it's extensive celiac disease, patients will present with diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, weight loss, and be severely ill. If it's limited celiac disease, then the symptoms can be very nonspecific and certainly non-diagnostic, with some cramping, with some belly pain, maybe some looser stool, but everything is just sort of intermittent. So celiac disease can present with symptoms on a spectrum, if you will.
What causes celiac disease? What is the component that people don't ingest or tolerate well?
Yeah, it's gluten, which is contained in most carbohydrates. There's a sensitivity to that, a reaction to that incites an inflammatory process within the small bowel. So the pathology for celiac disease is contained in the small intestine, more involved in the upper end of the small bowel and diminishing as you go through to the end of it. But that incites an inflammatory reaction, which then results in symptoms such as the diarrhea, malabsorption of nutrients, and if it's severe, then you have weight loss. You can have vitamin deficiencies. You can have poor bone structure. As some of the more severe problems resulting from celiac disease.
How are you diagnosed with celiac disease?
It's usually diagnosed in kids, okay, because once they have gluten that's introduced, then they may have some symptoms. So a lot of celiac patients are diagnosed as kids, younger kids, although you can start to see it in adults too on occasion. So, I mean, I certainly do see some, but not as many as the pediatric one. But diagnosing it involves, first of all, recognizing, well, celiac disease may be is in your differential diagnosis, and to think about that, because lots of times it's missed, because the symptoms are ubiquitous with other health problems as well. So you have to think about it. And then initially it would be a blood test to look for antibodies that form to gluten and cell components of the small bowel. And if you have a positive antibody test along with the appropriate symptoms, that's in an adult, then the next step would be to have an upper endoscopy to swallow that lighted tube to look at your stomach and upper small bowel and take biopsies of your upper small bowel, which in many instances will be consistent with celiac, and therefore with symptoms, with serology, blood test, and the endoscopic findings and histologic findings on biopsy, you make your diagnosis of celiac disease.
So once you have the diagnosis, what's the treatment?
The treatment is good and bad, in the sense that there is treatment. The treatment is hard. The treatment is gluten-free diet.
There are a lot of options out here these days, but it is a conscious effort to always avoid it.
Correct, and it's primarily carbohydrates that you need to avoid, and for some people that may be very difficult. Now, if you're fruits and vegetables and meat person, then that's great. But yeah, the treatment is a gluten-free diet. I always tell people they should check with a dietitian to go over the gluten-free diet. And then, most patients will do a good job of avoiding gluten because there are varying degrees of sensitivities to ingestion of gluten as well. Some people are very much more sensitive than others. In other words, some people may have a certain limit, a threshold of gluten that they can take, above which they may have symptoms, below which they're fine, versus other folks that with any sort of gluten, they have a lot of symptoms. So that will push them to adhere or not adhere depending on the degree of symptoms.
Just got to figure out how much you can tolerate or
Yeah.
Some or none at all?
That's correct. That is correct.
Dr. Subik, thank you so much. A quick look at celiac disease. It does affect so many people, so hopefully we'll give them some ideas on how to identify it and then what to do next. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here for Monday Health Minutes.